Okay, so we're looking at a Gemara from yesterday. We try to understand a little bit more of what's going on. And the basic Gemara is that God wanted to make Chizkiah Mashiach. God wanted to make the war of Sanhedrin be the war of prophesied Gog and Magog, leading up to Mashiach's coming. And the protest from the attribute of judgment is that Chizkiah did not sing God's praises, notwithstanding all the miracles, as opposed to King David, who did. And the earth tries to intervene by singing praises, and it's rejected. And God says, Razi li, the secrets to me, the secrets to me. The mystery of when Mashiach is going to come and why I want it to be this way is to mine. The prophet says, Oy vey, how long is this going to take? And the response is, when the treacherous deal treacherously, and the very treacherous deal very treacherously. Layers and layers of treachery, how Israel's taken by one set of looters and then looted by another set of looters.
We're talking in the future?
This is all back then, talking in the future, hopefully about now.
We're saying that Israel is going to be looted again?
No, this is 2,000 years ago, describing what will have happened in the last 2,000 years.
Yeah, you got me.
Which I think we've filled, to my view, because
we have submarines now that aren't
Yeah. No, we did, had a Meir Hakak put it yesterday, we paid in mileage and in years. Mileage and in years. We paid it in both very well. At any rate, so try to understand a little bit deeper what's going on here. So I'm going to zero in on one item that I do know, that I found a Maimer, I found a Hasidic discourse which discusses, and from there I'm going to try to build an understanding of the rest of the Gemara. And the primary objective here is, at least in the way I'm looking at it, is to understand how all these elements exist simultaneously. Not as if God wanted to do something and then changed his mind because the attribute of judgment changed his mind. The attribute of judgment is God's attribute of judgment, which means simultaneously God wants to make Chizkiah Mashiach, and therefore to some degree Chizkiah already is Mashiach in some way, connected to King David, who did sing the song.
He has the attributes,
right?
But he wasn't given
fully. So on some level it exists, but on another level it doesn't exist. And then somehow this is related to specifically what the earth represents, the earth singing the song, and all about this issue with the song missing here, and that's the one element that's missing. Try to understand all that, how they all simultaneously exist, and what it means for the coming of Mashiach in the future time, hopefully very soon. So what I'm going to zero in is the word tzvi, deer. The way the word used in the pasuk to describe the will of the tzaddik, and where the earth says, the kanaf aretz, from the verse says in Isaiah, and this is the verse alluding to the fact that the earth is singing a song in replacement for the tzaddik. The verse reads, "Mikanaf aretz zamira shamanu." From the corners of the earth we heard song. Tzvi la tzaddik, let there be the will for the tzaddik. Like the Gemara puts it, "Tzivyono aseh le tzaddik zeh." The master of the world, the angel of the world, says to Hashem, make your will be on this tzaddik, on Chizkiah. So there's the word tzvi specifically being used here. So the word tzvi is a pun. It means two different things. In the context here, it means will or desire. Let your will be placed on the tzaddik that he become Mashiach. But the word tzvi also means deer. Now, of course, in Hebrew, like in English, you have, someone just told me this recently, the difference between English and Hebrew is in English, you have multiple words to describe one thing. Rapid, fast, quick, hasty, and you can probably find another 10 words. And each one of them, a linguist knows the nuance of what's the difference between each word and use it properly. But in Hebrew, it's the reverse. You have many different words that are said in many different meanings to one word. And the study of etymology is the reverse, to understand what the root of the word is, and thus making a correlation between all the different meanings of that one word. That's the study of etymology in Hebrew. To get to the root of a word and see the connection between all of them.
Well, we have like in French, in Hebrew we have the vowels, and in Hebrew so there could be different interpretations, different meanings.
Yeah, but then there's even one word that has different meanings. Like here, the word tzvi means both a deer and also means desire or will.
But the preceding and anteceding words will...
The prefix and the suffix will change the context, that's correct. So, in explaining that, I did find a mimer explaining that, a Hasidic discourse explaining that, and the connection to Mashiach, citing this Gemara. In citing this Gemara and saying that there's a connection between the deer, desire, and Mashiach, this mimer, this discourse from the Rebbe Marash, which is the fourth Chabad Rebbe, he connects deer, desire to Mashiach based on this Gemara. He doesn't explain the rest of the Gemara, but he just cites it as a connection. Proof that deer, desire connected to Mashiach is look at the fact that the Gemara uses the language of Tzvi l'Tzadik for Chizkiah to be Mashiach. Let the Tzvi of the Tzadik be happen. And then he explains what Tzvi means, what desire means, and what deer means, and how it connects to Mashiach. And then so I'm going to explain that, and I'm hopefully going to use that to try to explain the rest of the Gemara. So the explanation on the first item is from Chassidus. You can take the word for it. What follows after that is my own suggestion, and you're welcome to disagree. So, there's a Gemara elsewhere which says like this. The pasuk in Daniel refers to the land of Eretz Yisrael as Eretz Tzvi, the land of the deer. So why is it called the land of the deer? So there's a few different explanations throughout the Gemara. And one of them is, there's two of them specifically going to highlight. There's two, but one of them breaks down to three, because one of the two have two different versions, but they both mean a very similar thing. One of them is, just like a tzvi, a deer, its leather, its skin doesn't hold its flesh. Likewise, land of Eretz Yisrael expands with those in it. What it means is like this. Apparently, a deer's flesh expands as soon as it's skinned. So you can't stuff the flesh back into the skin. Meaning to say the skin expands with the flesh. Because the skin is like the stretchy type material.
Like lycra or something.
What's that?
Like a stretch.
A stretchy material, yeah.
Spandex, something that
exactly
expands.
And as soon as you take it out, you lose that stretch, and you can't stuff it back in somehow.
Okay.
That's what the Gemara is used for. See, so the Gemara makes that idea for two different things: either for the fruit or the inhabitants. And that they're expansive. The inhabitants, the Jews, they expand, and Israel contains. As the Jews expand, Israel can contain them. And as the fruit expand, Israel can contain it also, something like that. And the other reason the Gemara cites for why the land of Israel is called Tzvi is because it's light. Tzvi is very quickly. Kal mikola chayas. It's lightest of all the animals. It runs, it sprints, it moves very quickly. So the land of Israel, its fruit ripen very quickly. Okay.
Also, Tzvi is a desire. It means that the nations want to have their kingdom in Israel as well. It's also more
also connected to that, to desire.
Desire, yeah. That's what it's a desirous land.
In fact, the word Eretz, which we're going to talk about soon, also means desire. Lama Nikashma Eretz, why is it called Eretz? Why is it called land? That it wants to do with the will of its master. The word Eretz also has the word Ratzon in it. So it's really this connection to desire, which we're going to elaborate on. So this mimer here from the Rebbe Marash cites to the Alter Rebbe in Torah, the first Chabad Rebbe, which writes that Tzvi, the element of Tzvi, the element of the deer, is connected to Torah Shebal Peh. Torah is also called earth in some contexts. But the difference between Torah Shebiksav, the written Torah, and Torah Shebal Peh, the oral Torah, the oral tradition. Torah Shebiksav is dictated by Hashem, and therefore the words don't change. You can't add, you can't subtract. It stays exactly as it is. It's not expansive. It's fixed. It doesn't expand. It's a pure divine revelation. It doesn't expand. Tzvi, on the other hand, or Torah Shebal Peh, the oral Torah, does expand. With every person who adds insight into Torah, adding words to Torah, the Torah itself expands. Like the Tzvi we described before, that its leather expands with the flesh that's in it. That is to say, the leather is like the skin is like the letters. The flesh is like the meat, is the content in the letters, conveyed in the letters. So in Torah Shebiksav, the letters don't expand. And whatever content you can get out of it, you can get out of it. Whatever you can't get out of it. But when it comes to the oral Torah, as you add more content, so do the letters expand. Right?
Did you quote a Gemara for that?
No, I haven't seen it. I was looking for it this morning. I was looking, but I couldn't find it. As I said, it's from Torah Shebiksav. It's from Torah Ur. That's the earliest I found. I have to look in the back of Torah Ur. I didn't have a chance to, but I have to look in the back of Torah Ur to see if there's... Some books have footnotes on the bottom, so it's easy to find. But in Torah Ur, the footnotes are on the back. I have to look again to see if I can find it. But so far as I can find, the earliest is Torah Ur, which is the Alter Rebbe. Now, where does it come to the other element of tzvi? In that it's light. So this connects to the fact that tzvi means desire. Tzvi is Hashem's desire. That's what the context we used here.
I think it's Tifrei Tzaddik.
Sorry?
Hashem should do the will of the tzaddik.
Right. But tzvi means desire. So in the context of this discussion, when you're calling Torah tzvi, specifically Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah tzvi, is because Torah Sheba'al Peh is where you will reveal God's desire. You look at Torah Sheb'Ksav, doesn't even say the word tefillin anywhere, but certainly it tells you about tefillin, but you don't know how to do it. It tells you about Shabbos, you don't know how to do it. So you can't extrapolate God's desire from Torah Sheb'Ksav alone, from the written Torah alone. You need the oral Torah to extrapolate the desire. There's this other connection to tzvi, to dir, and that tzvi means desire, and that Torah Sheb'Ksav Peh brings out God's desire. Furthermore, we mentioned here in the past that the element of a horse, a sus, I don't remember when the context was, when we talked about sus here, about a horse in the Gemara. I'm trying to remember when we talked about it. But we talked about horse in connection to our Gemara, and that horse expresses God's desire in Torah, in mitzvahs specifically, in the fulfillment of mitzvahs. How is that? Because what a horse is that which takes you to a place where you alone couldn't go. It takes you farther than you would go ordinarily. And God's desire for mitzvahs reaches the lowest place of reality. Right? Torah is an intellectual pursuit. It's somewhat detached from the reality that we live in. You're going into the world of Torah. But mitzvahs is the other way. Mitzvahs is bringing God's desire into the world of ours. It's coming downward. It's taking you farther away, as it were. So tzvi, which is lightest of all animals, is even faster. So tzvi the deer is horse 2.0. It's bringing God's desire down into this world, but bringing God's desire into a place where it goes quickly without any interruption. So it's the deepest level of Torah Sheba'al Peh, the written Torah, or the oral Torah, which is all about, it's expansive like the deer, which is the skin expands with the flesh, and likewise it's quick in that it brings God's desire, tzvi, the word being tzvi, being desire, brings God's desire quickly down into this world. That's where you most obviously see God's desire. In the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law tells you do this, don't do that, which is all oral law, not the written law, because the written law doesn't give you God's desire that quickly, even though it's a pure revelation of godliness.
Also, the principle is you always hurry to do a mitzvah, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the opening words of the Shulchan Aruch, that's right.
Like,
run like a deer to do God's will.
Mitzvah presents itself, go right to it, don't delay it.
That's right. Run like a deer to do God's will. Again, this connection between the deer and God's desire in getting the mitzvahs done, in that it brings God's revelation into this low space down into this physical world. What does it all have to do with Mashiach? So explains the Marash like this, that the Zohar tells us, it's famous Zohar, that Mashiach is Asi Lasavet Tzaddikai B'Tiyufta. That Mashiach is going to make the Tzaddik do Teshuvah. This is the famous Zohar. The Tzaddik should do Teshuvah. Because on the one hand, says there Marash, there's two different statements we have. On the one hand, we say that in the place where the Baal Teshuvah stands, the one who returns to God stands, Ein Tzaddikim Gemorim Michael Lamecham, the greatest of Tzaddikim can't stand at the high place where the Baal Teshuvah stands. On the one hand. On the other hand, when God creates this world, B'min Nimlach, who does God consult with, so to speak, is Ben Mishah Same Tzaddikim, with the souls of the righteous, not with the souls of the Baal Teshuvah. So there's a virtue in the Tzaddik, and there's a virtue in the Baal Teshuvah. So explains the Marash, what's the virtue? And the Mashiach comes and wants to have both virtues. That's the idea, that the Tzaddik does Teshuvah, you have both of these virtues. What's the virtue of each one? That the virtue of the Tzaddik versus the Baal Teshuvah is parallel to the virtue of the written Torah and the oral Torah. The written Torah, which is straight divine revelation, that's what it is. The written Torah is straight divine revelation, you don't add, you don't subtract. The virtue there is that it's most clearly, when you look at the written Torah, there's no mistaking that this is divine. Because all you see is God's word. And that's the tzaddik. The tzaddik follows the rule, never broke the rules. So all you see is direct divine revelation. What's it lacking? What's its lack? Its lack is that it doesn't reach the lowest of places. It doesn't make it down to the lowest of places. It's a direct line to divine revelation, and that's the tzaddik. But the tzaddik lives in a kind of cocoon, if you will. He doesn't live as far out there in the world as where the Baal Teshuvah came from. But the Baal Teshuvah / Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah, which does reach to the divine desire all the way into the physical world, and there's a struggle, and there's expansiveness, All in Torah Sheba'al Peh and the Baal Teshuvah have both of these qualities. Torah Sheba'al Peh is a struggle. You got to discover what it is. You got to use your own mind. It goes down to the lowest of places in fulfilling God's desire. That's like the Baal Teshuvah, who comes from the lowest of places and tries to work his way up. So the tzaddik is divine revelation from above to below, but it doesn't make it that far down because it's direct, obvious divinity. The Baal Teshuvah is trying his best to get as high as he possibly can, and he's climbing from the way below all the way to the bottom, like Torah Sheba'al Peh, like the oral Torah, which starts at the lowest place, starts the struggle, but you reach all the way to God's desire. And therefore, Mashiach comes and makes the tzaddik to teshuvah. The idea is to have both of these virtues. That it's obvious, clear revelation of divinity, and that obvious and clear revelation comes all the way to the lowest of places. And there says that Marash is tzvi latzadik, and that's the connection here to Mashiach. The verse says tzvi latzadik, and you want to have both of these virtues. It's tzvi and tzaddik. It's tzvi, it's a deer, it's Torah Sheba'al Peh, it's God's desire, it's the Baal Teshuvah, and that should be in the tzaddik, in the one who has obvious and clear revelation of Hashem. And that's the connection to Mashiach, and this ends the Maimer of the Marash. Now, trying to use this, hopefully I can try to explain some of this Gemara here.
It's like the merger between the marketplace and the Beis Midrash.
Exactly.
Like,
the merger of the marketplace and the Beis Midrash.
Separate, but they should
I actually saw a Maimer, unbelievable Maimer. It's a beautiful Maimer, actually. From the Rebbe, it's Parshas Korach. Actually, the Maimer said on Gimel Tammuz in 1958. And at the end, there was a similar discussion to this issue about combining perspective of heaven and this perspective of earth. And they will conclude until we come to the day of Mashiach, when the barrier between that which is mundane and that which is holy completely disintegrate, and that's all holy. It's a very, very powerful language using almost that exact wording. I don't remember the exact wording, but I remember reading that, and I learned the Bible many times, and one time I learned it and it dawned on me, like, look at this line. It's like a kind of heavy, and it's a very similar line to what you just said. So with that, let's try to explain a little bit this Gemara. So what we have then is that Mashiach has two elements. Number one, it's an obvious and clear divine revelation, and that it's not concealed. It's obvious that this is divinity. On the other hand, this obvious divinity must reach the lowest of realms. Right now, in times of exile, these are two separate realities. If someone's in the lowest of realms, then it's not obvious. Let's say even someone on a good level, even about Teshuvah, who's on a struggling from a low level, there's a struggle there. It's not as obviously divinity. A tzaddik has obvious divinity, but doesn't make it as low. Right? The Mashiach is supposed to combine these two. So let's see. The Gemara is saying that Hashem wanted to make Chizkiah Mashiach. Perhaps. The reason is because he has the element of it coming from the lowest of places. Chizkiah was faced with lots of struggle. He was sick. He got healed. Describing he's the famous one who prayed in distress, went to the wall. He faced the wall and prayed in distress. The halacha that we face, that's best to face a wall when you're davening, so if no distractions, comes from Chizkiah. He had to face Sanhedrin. So he had the element of the Baal Teshuvah, let's say, from below to above. He had the element of tzvi, of Torah Sheba'al Peh. David HaMelech had the other one. David HaMelech had the virtue of revelation. He had song. Song is about revelation. It's clear, obvious song. Sorry? He also struggled, I know. Yeah. In fact, the Gemara says about David HaMelech that he opened for Baal Teshuvah. I don't know. I'm still struggling with this idea.
He's a paradigm Baal Teshuvah, actually.
Yeah. I don't know. I have to.
But Mashiach
It's
is
true.
a descendant of
Both.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a combination of both. David and Chizkiah.
Oh.
They're both. In other words, they all, or maybe. Okay, we'll put a pin in this for a second. But I know what you mean, and I have to think about it a little bit more. But anyway, perhaps what we're saying in the lack of shida, when we're saying lack of song, is the lack of revelation. Like song is a revelation where you look at a song and there's clear joy, there's clear connection to divinity. In other words, he had all these miracles, but didn't praise Hashem for the miracles. Right? As if to say, there lacked the revelation that this is divine, even though we knew it was divine. But it lacked an expression. It lacked the revelation, maybe. And therefore,
there's also Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef, right? So maybe
But over here, they're both Ben David.
They're both Ben David.
They're both Ben David. David and Chizkiah are both in the same line.
Okay.
Yeah? I have to work this still out, but again, I'm suggesting all of this. Now, when the earth says song, when the earth says I'll sing song, the earth again is the lowest of places. It matches the idea of the tzvi, the deer. It's the lowest. It goes to the lowest of places. It's ratzon, it's desire. The word eretz also comes from desire. So the eretz, the earth, is singing praises as if the earth is trying to say, the praise is in me. The praise is in the fact that it comes to the lowest of places, that the revelation comes so low. That's where the praise is.
Yeah, not the malachim.
Not the angels. The praise comes from the fact that it made it so low. That's the whole point.
Marsha explains the Eretz refers to the Malach of Eretz Yisrael. So actually,
Oh yeah, it's the reverse.
That's Kanaf for us. So that's why it's also meant Eretz Tzvi.
Yeah.
Because the land wants the people.
Right. But I'm saying that the want, the desire of Hashem actually comes in the lowest of places, comes in mitzvahs, comes in Teresh Baal Peh, in the Baal Teshuvah.
Because like usually Pasuk Eretz Tzvi, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what he'll
So the response from heaven is, Razi li, the secret, the mystery is unto me. So the simple reading of the Gemara is that God's saying the mystery of when Mashiach is going to come and why I want Mashiach to be delayed is mine alone and no one can understand it. It's true. But perhaps we could suggest that Hashem is saying, it's not merely that I want you to have my desire. I want you to have the deepest desire of me. Razi li, I want you to have my deepest razi. The secret is to me, the secret is to me. I want you to reach to my deepest secret. And the secret you're reaching now, the desire you're reaching now is not deep enough. And therefore Mashiach is not ready yet. Because the level of desire, the level of razi, razi actually means both secret and desire. And in Kabbalistic language. So the deepest desire of me, double, razi li, is not reached yet. So it's takar eretz, it is God's desire. My desire is being fulfilled in Torah and mitzvahs, but it isn't deep enough. And so ask the prophet till when? Like how much deeper do we need to dig? To which Hashem responds, when the treacherous deal treacherously and the very treacherous do even more treacherously. As if to say, for whatever inexplicable reason, the way in which we reach the deepest desire of Hashem is precisely when we go into the deepest place of treachery. Right now, as if God is saying, the revelation is too much for you to have really truly reached my deepest desire. The deepest desire of Hashem is specifically revealed in a place when there's treachery and darkness. And this gets back to the idea we talked about yesterday, how the process for Mashiach coming begins at the moment of exile. Exile itself is not unrelated to Mashiach's coming. Some people think, mistakenly, that you put up with exile for long enough and God rewards you with Mashiach. That's not the way it is. Exile itself is the slow process of coming to Mashiach. The treachery alone is what's going to get you the deepest secrets of Hashem. A commitment to Hashem in the deepest level of treachery, in the deepest place of darkness, that's where revelation of Mashiach is revealed. Which explains, just incidentally, kind of explains why the story of Esther, the Megillus Esther remains even when Mashiach comes. Even though there's some talk about what the status of holidays are in Mashiach's coming, and the way Chassidus explains, not that they won't exist, holidays will exist, but the holidays will be, the revelation of Mashiach will be so great that the revelation of the holidays will almost be eclipsed. Not that they won't exist, but the revelation of the holidays will be eclipsed. But the revelation of the holiday of Purim doesn't get eclipsed. Why? Because where does Purim happen? Purim happens in exile. That's what Purim is. Purim is a celebration of Jewish survival in exile. The story doesn't end that they return to Israel and build a temple like Hanukkah does, or Pesach leads to the building of Eretz Yisrael, going out of Egypt and getting the Torah. In Purim, Makati Achashverosh, and we're still subject to Achashverosh. But even there, we proved our perseverance, we proved our commitment. And there the Gemara says that the acceptance of Torah was true specifically when they were there. And that's the revelation of Mashiach. That's the tzaddik doing teshuvah. But not the tzaddik doing teshuvah on some lofty level where he's sitting in Eretz Yisrael and enjoying and basking in the glory of the divine. Specifically when there's treachery upon treachery, then you get to Razi. Then you get to the deepest secrets and deepest desire of Hashem. None of this negates the fact that the prophet still protests and says, Ad Masai. It might be true that from God's perspective, he sees this truth where the deeper the treachery, the deeper our commitment, and the deeper the secret, the deeper the desire, the deeper level of teshuvah that tzaddik reaches, so to speak, the deeper the darkness the lower we go, the deeper our commitment, the deeper level of Hashem's desire. But nonetheless, from our perspective, we tell Hashem, okay, enough, we got it. We're committed. We proved the point, like we said before, we paid in miles and in years. And the protest ad Masai isn't, I don't think it's like the prophet accepts, oh, okay, we're waiting for double treachery, no problem, we're waiting for double treachery. I don't think that's what's happening here. I think the prophet's this conversation is ongoing. Getting back to the point that all these elements exist at once. On the one hand, Hashem is saying Chizkiah is Mashiach because he served as a certain pivotal. Let's put it this way: everybody and anybody who contributes to the commitment to Hashem in the place of darkness is, in essence, a Mashiach living experience. Chizkiah fully lived that out. So when you say God wanted to make Chizkiah Mashiach, it's because he had that in some element. And for anybody who follows this pattern also has that Mashiach element. Right? The nitzis Mashiach shebachol echad, the nitzis of Moshe, the spark of Mashiach that's in everyone, the spark of Moshe that's in everyone, otherwise known as the Pentelayid, the part of the Jew which is always committed to Hashem. And the question is only to what degree you're living it. So Chizkiah, which lived it completely, was ready to be Mashiach. So anybody who commits himself in that sense is living Mashiach. And then there's still the protest of Hashem wants a deeper connection, with deeper treachery, God forbid. And there's the protests of Ad Masai, till when? So there's all these elements of the conversation are all coexisting all the time. As we delve deeper and deeper on the one hand into exile, deeper and deeper in our commitment, and therefore deeper and deeper in our closeness to Mashiach's coming, may it happen without delay.
Amen.
Perhaps we still need to work out exactly the elements of what Chizkiah contributed and what David contributed and how this all fits in. But I think this is the overarching theme in following with this mimer.
One of the things the commentaries mentioned, but tangentially, that's the point, that Chizkiah was not privileged to be like the 10 tribes. Hashem did to a certain extent, so perhaps part of the shir has to be like Az Yishem Moshe, Bnei Israel has to be Bnei Israel.
Has to all the Jewish people together.
That's what's missing. So the shir it's a symbol, but it's not the song alone. It's the whole.
Right.
It's the whole environment, the crescendo of the song of the Jews, 10 tribes missing, and also
or alternatively,
impact even the non-Jews.
Alternatively, maybe the reason why Chizkiah didn't make a song is because he said, "I'm not making a song unless all Jews are here."
Yeah, that's right. But
I could do it for myself, but that would be foolish. I want all Jews to be involved here before I sing a song.
But the thing is, he should have. Hashem expected him to do something like maybe to kind of rally the 10 tribes and so on. But it's interesting that just even in the wording of the word, you have the Sar Shel Olam has the same letters as Shir in it. It's interesting. Sar and Shir. And of course, Yisrael has Shirin as well. Shir Kel, Asher Kel. So it's probably that's. But the Gemara's conclusion is that the Navi asks how long, and it says no, it won't be an easy redemption. It's going to be difficult.
Also, I forgot to mention.
The commentaries mentioned that point will be a lot of suffering. Like the same in Mitzrayim, 400 years or 210 years because of the.
So I mentioned yesterday, we paid in miles and years.
Miles and years. That's what the Hashem is giving the answer. Don't expect it to be, because saying Hashem, there's a chance here to avert the whole situation of the negativity. Could have been a very positive redemption, very easy, like Chizkiah, just miracles. But unfortunately, the people weren't there.
Stubborn.
Well, I'm stubborn. It seems that there's missing is the element of shir. Was that's what Hashem wanted?
Right. I think that's what I'm saying here. That the true song comes from the place of treachery.
It's interesting that in this Mishnah, which talks about being swift as a deer, concludes with rebuilding of the base of Mikdash. Yeah.
It's the same Mishnah. That's true.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting point. Yeah, it's here. Another thing I wanted to mention was that the verse's language for treachery is beged, which comes from the same word as beged, clothing, as if to say concealment. Clothing conceals the person that's in it.
What we did at the mountain, he said,
sorry?
I'm going to meet out over time, so we had to go through all that for...
Yeah. We had to go through all of this to get to Mashiach's revelation, and the deepest secrets comes through the place of treachery. But doesn't negate the fact that we can protest like the prophet Ad Masai. How much longer? We paid enough in this thing.
We did, so that's what it was like.
Yeah.
But it could have been averted at that payment. But
if 10 should love each other, Hashem give the
redemption next day. It would have averted, but it seems
we create more problems.
I have a better view of Jews. I actually think Jews do love each other. There's lots of obviously Cyril Baruch Hashem. Jews are getting along better than they have in I don't know how many years. Yeah, that's the fact. The Jews are getting together better than we have in many years. It's high time. Mashiach is ready to come. Okay, wonderful day, everybody.